I never expected my quiet cul-de-sac to turn into a war zone at midnight until I heard the door shudder under the force of 3 heavy kicks. Before we dive in, comment which country you're watching from today. If you ever hear tactical boots on your porch at 2 a.m., you're either living in a nightmare or about to wake up in one. I was halfway through brewing chamomile tea for my wife Lena when the pounding began. The door rattled, splintered, and then crashed inward as 3 figures in matte black vests and mirrored goggles stormed inside. Their patches read HOA Enforcement Unit, but the way they moved, sharp, predatory, told me they weren't here to serve polite notices. The tallest man barreled forward, voice clipped. Marcus Lena, you're under temporary protective custody. Mrs. Lena, please come with us. His partner closed in on Lena, hands darting for her blouse. The knife-toothed sneer on his face left no doubt. This was a setup for something far darker than a community standards check. I dropped my mug and lunged, adrenaline igniting my limbs. But 2 of them shoved me back as if I were nothing, just an obstacle. One pinned me against the wall, the other dragged Lena toward the living room. Her eyes flicked to mine, and in that instant I understood the stakes. If I didn't break free, they'd see how far this compliance could go. My heart pounded as I kicked out, but the hallway was a chokehold of bad intentions. The third man, leaner, younger, smirked as he wrenched at Lena's blouse, fingers grazing skin, voice low. We just need to make sure she's safe. My fists clenched around nothing. Then Lena's calm voice cut through the chaos. That's enough. She twisted free, her movements fluid and precise. There was no panic in her eyes, only ice. She whipped around, delivered a palm heel strike that folded the tallest assailant in half, then spun into a low sweep that knocked the second to the ground. I tumbled forward and caught a glimpse of her badge gleaming under the hallway light. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Silence slammed in after her words. The fake enforcers froze, confusion and fear dawning on their faces. I scrambled to my feet, chest heaving, as Lena squared her shoulders and surveyed the 3 men who had tried to violate our home and my wife's body. The ringleader gasped for breath, hand pressed to his throat where Lena's strike had landed. His partner scrambled to his feet, pulling a cheap stunt knife, but Lena anticipated the move. She sidestepped, seized his wrist, and twisted until he cried out, dropping the blade. With one fluid motion, she cuffed him behind his back, using the plastic restraints she'd torn from their vests. I backed away to give her room, heart still pounding in my throat. The third intruder reached for his radio, probably to call reinforcements, but Lena kicked him in the knee, then drove him face first into the console. He slumped, arms dangling. She moved like a force of nature, low kick to the shins, palm strike to the jaw, then a final forearm press that pinned his face to the floor. FBI, she said, voice calm but inexorable. You're all under arrest for attempted sexual assault, home invasion, and impersonation of law enforcement officers. Her tone was matter of fact, betrayed no surprise because she'd no doubt done this before. I rifled through their gear, forged HOA credentials, burner phones filled with surveillance videos of half the street, and stacks of court lookalike subpoenas listing dozens of neighbors. Each document bore red ink annotations, Schedule Phase 2, Compliance Removal. This was a predatory conspiracy, masquerading as neighborhood governance. Lena called for backup on her secure line. Within minutes, real FBI and local SWAT teams surrounded the house. Neighbors peered through their windows, mouths agape. I watched with a mix of terror and pride as Lena secured the evidence, shredding the fake patches, packing the phones, logging each file. When the genuine agents swept in, Lena handed off the trio to be processed. The lead agent, a lanky woman I recognized as one of Lena's colleagues, nodded to me. You both did well. I sank against the staircase rail, adrenaline ebbing into fatigue. Neighbors trickled onto the lawn, offering shaken smiles and tearful thanks. One elderly couple handed us bottled water. Another brought blankets. The word hero hung uncomfortably in the air. Lena slipped her hand into mine, brushing away sweat and dust. I looked at her badge again, grateful and awed. By dawn, our street had transformed into a federal crime scene. Evidence markers dotted the lawn, and forensics vans idled by the curb. Lena led a debrief with the anti-corruption task force. I hovered on the sidelines, drinking lukewarm coffee and replaying every precise move she'd made against our attackers. In the afternoon light, the HOA board president, Marjorie Delaney, arrived in handcuffs, flanked by agents. Her pearls were still intact, but her composure shattered as Lena laid out the charges: conspiracy to facilitate sexual assault, racketeering, and impersonation. Delaney's HOA fantasy had been a cover for predation and extortion, and now her empire crumbled before neighborly eyes. Media crews arrived, cameras rolling as Lena addressed the press. No one should fear their own neighborhood rules. Authority must be accountable. Nearby families clutched framed copies of the subpoenas the intruders had wielded like weapons. This wasn't just about us. It was every home they'd terrorized under fake badges. That evening, I found Lena on our porch swing, twilight painting her silhouette. I joined her, pulled her close, and felt the tension drain from her shoulders. The streetlights blinked on, illuminating smiling neighbors who waved from their driveways. If anyone ever shows up at your door claiming HOA authority, especially at midnight, remember, true power wears a real badge, and when darkness knocks, the sharpest defense might just be the one you never saw coming. The end.